Today we're going to be investigating the history of the Gibson bursts. So let's get started.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hey guitarists, welcome back to Squealing Pig Guitars, the home of luxury guitars here in Nottingham, England. And today we're going to be investigating arguably the most famous guitar ever made, the Gibson Les Paul Standard Burst, which was made from 1958 to 1960. So let's dive into the details. Before 1958, the standard Gibson Les Paul model was a gold top. Something just like this on screen now. This is a 57 era gold top with two PAF humbuckers. So believe it or not, when the Gibson Les Paul was first introduced, it wasn't popular at all. This was mainly down to the music scene at the time. The mainstream music scene consisted of jazz and country, and the tones that came from the Les Paul weren't considered good enough for those types of music at the time. People preferred acoustic guitars and the more lightweight and jangly tones of the Fender Telecaster and Stratocaster. The evidence of this is all in the statistics. So 998 models were sold in 1957 against 2,245 in 1953. So you can see how public opinion wasn't exactly on the side of the Gibson Les Paul Gold Top. So to counteract the sharp decline in the sales of the Gold Top, in 1958 Gibson unveiled the Les Paul Sunburst. To revive the Les Paul market, the obvious solution seemed to look back at tradition with the Sunburst finish the Kalamazoo-based company was famous for, showcasing the beautiful maple tops with a transparent finish. The first Les Paul Standard Burst to come into production was made in 1958 and had the serial number 83096. This Les Paul is now owned by Slash and is considered the first Les Paul Standard Burst with the specs that we expect for a 1958 guitar. There was a burst that creeped into production before the first burst, but it had a three-piece maple top, so people don't consider it to be a true burst. But you can see here on the screen now, this is guitar 83097, and it showcases that beautiful cherry sunburst finish. So let's talk about the specs of the burst. As we mentioned at the start, the term burst basically refers to Les Pauls with a sunburst finish made between 1958 and 1960. So if you know, obviously, the 1958 had a thicker neck, the 1959 had a slightly slimmer neck, and then the 1960 had an even slimmer neck. Other than the neck size, the specs stayed pretty much the same. You had a mahogany body with an aniline cherry die on, you had a mahogany neck, and then we also had a two-piece flamed maple top, this curled ribbon look. You had an ABR1 bridge and stock tailpiece, and you had the PAF humbucking pickups. The official colour of the top was cherry sunburst, but there could be small differences in the colour depending on how the guitar was sprayed or how the guitar had been exposed to sunlight. For example, some spray painters, who usually put finishes on arch tops, didn't like the Les Paul's new cherry sunburst and faded it by adding the more traditional dark brown, resulting in a finish that was called dark burst. Many of the colours that we've come to love today, for example the finish on greeny and the more lemony yellow colours, were actually created through the process of fading. This was due to the discoloration of red when exposed to ultraviolet rays, and also the patina of the clear coat. So most of the Les Pauls that we know and love actually left the factory as a cherry sunburst guitar and aged to that yellow lemon burst that we now know. Counteract people's guitars from fading in the sun, Gibson would provide a Mr. Dealer card, as you can see here, which is still now included in the custom shop instruments to encourage shop owners to not put the guitars in their shop windows. The Les Paul Standard, built between 1958 and 1960s, are certainly the most sought-after instruments by collectors around the world, but their success was a delayed one. Sales didn't go up as Gibson wanted, and only 1,712 Les Pauls were produced and sold. So the Kalamazoo-based company decided to completely redesign the Les Paul, which from that moment on would have a double cutaway and a flat body. This design we now call the SG, i.e. the solid guitar, which would become Gibson's greatest commercial success. This would have been the end of the story for the Les Paul, but luckily for the Les Paul, there was a guy called Eric Clapton who bought one in 1965 for £130. This guitar was a 1960s Les Paul, and it was hanging in Lou Davis' store in Charing Cross Road, London. With that guitar, which had just gone out of production 5 years earlier, and a 1962 Marshall combo, which went down in history as the Blues Breaker. So the story of the burst really ends here with a nice happy ending. And obviously now the 58, the 59, and the 60s Les Pauls are seen as some of the most, high-end vintage guitars and the most sought after in the world. Most of them fetching over £500,000 at auction. So there definitely is something special in these guitars with the rarity and significant history that it had to the culture of music. So with the birth of the custom shop came the hunt for chasing after that 59 tone. And as you can see now, Gibson Custom Shop do all sorts of finishes, basically every variation of a faded finish alongside custom colors in their made-to-measure program. They replicate the specs of the 1958, 59, and 60s models. Some of these factors include a long neck tenon, the aniline dies that still are featured, the same hardware, the same building techniques, and you can even buy an aged guitar from the Murphy Lab now to simulate that worn-in relict feel. It is interesting to compare, though, the value of these guitars from when they started. Obviously, Eric Clapton bought his for 130 quid back in the day, and now they fetch over £500,000 at auction, which shows a massive increase in price. Obviously, these custom shop recreations aren't cheap, but if you're wanting a taste of that burst sound, then I can't recommend the Gibson Custom Shop highly enough. They make an incredible recreation. So guys, if you stuck with me for this long, then make sure to leave a like down below and leave a comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more content. I really enjoy making these history videos. They've been really fun to make, and obviously I love Gibson guitars. I'm a massive Gibson fanboy, so this was great to do all the research for. But yeah, I will see you in the next video. As I said, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. But keep rocking. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.